Before you take on the responsibilities of the day, whether they are the duties of a parent, the commitments of a job, the care of another, or the leadership of a team, there is a quieter, more essential step: the awakening of the heart. Consider it like tuning an instrument before a performance. If our inner world is off-key, no amount of doing the right thing will produce a steady or beautiful sound. But when the heart is awake, when we are connected to our deepest values, to compassion, and to a sense of purpose, our responsibilities are transformed. They cease to be mere tasks on a list. They become acts of meaning. So what does it truly mean to awaken the heart? It begins with intention. Before the day's momentum takes hold, pause long enough to ask, why am I doing what I am doing? Not in some vague, motivational sense, but in a real, grounded way. Perhaps you work to provide stability for your family. Perhaps you are learning a skill so you can serve others with greater competence. Perhaps you are trying to rebuild trust after a difficult season. This intention is what turns automatic motion into aligned action. From this place of intention, we must build an emotional foundation. So many of us rush into our duties the moment we feel capable, but responsibility without emotional grounding can lead to burnout, irritability, or deep-seated resentment. A grounded heart, however, acknowledges its own state. Are you calm this morning? Overwhelmed? Lonely? Hopeful? Or stressed? Simply naming the feeling allows you to respond with wisdom instead of reacting with impulse. If you notice you're tense, you can consciously take a breath before answering a difficult message. If you feel discouraged, you can choose one small, achievable step instead of trying to force a motivation that isn't there. A simple practice to support this awakening is a daily values check. Ask yourself, what matters most to me right now? Then choose one value to guide your actions for the day. Honesty, perhaps, or patience, courage, or kindness. This works because values act as an internal compass. When life becomes a whirlwind of urgent demands, your compass keeps you oriented toward what is truly important. Without it, we drift, guided only by the loudest voice or the most immediate pressure. Another powerful ingredient is honest gratitude. This isn't a denial of difficulty or a pretense that everything is fine. It is a clear-eyed recognition of what is still good, what is still working. We often think gratitude is reserved for easy days, but it is most transformative on the complicated ones. Try this. Name one thing that is genuinely helping you today. It could be a reliable coworker, a supportive friend, your own health, or the simple fact that you have a warm place to sleep. Gratitude quiets the emotional noise. It creates the mental space needed to show up with steadiness when your responsibilities demand your full attention. And finally, there is compassion for yourself and for others. Compassion does not mean lowering standards or excusing harmful behavior. It means recognizing our shared human reality. We all make mistakes. You will have imperfect days. The goal is not to be flawless. It is to be constructive. As you prepare to take on a responsibility that involves other people, teaching, mentoring, caregiving, leading, remember that everyone is carrying their own unseen burdens. A little grace can change everything. With a heart that is beginning to awaken, we can now turn toward God. Before we dive into any practice, let us slow down and consider something simple but profound: how we begin. In nearly every faith tradition, the way you start a moment with God shapes the entire encounter. If you arrive with distraction, you will likely leave with it. But when you approach with reverence and gratitude, your heart becomes more attentive, your mind more steady, and your spirit more open. Greeting God is not just a polite phrase, it is an intentional posture. It is the difference between rushing past someone important and taking the time to truly see and acknowledge them. Reverence means honoring God as God. This may sound obvious, but it is a practice. Reverence is recognizing God's holiness and greatness, while also holding the truth that God is intimately near. It is speaking with sincerity instead of treating prayer like a transaction. For instance, instead of a hurried, "God, whatever, hear me," a reverent greeting might sound more like, "God, I come before you. You are holy, and I am grateful you are here." Notice the shift. Reverence brings humility. It acknowledges that God is not a concept to be manipulated, but a person to be encountered. Gratitude, in turn, is the act of remembering what God has already done, both big and small. Gratitude does not deny our struggles or pretend that life is perfect. Instead, it trains our attention toward the whole truth. Even in the most difficult seasons, gifts remain. The breath in our lungs, the ability to think and feel, relationships that sustain us, moments of unexpected peace. Gratitude also includes spiritual gifts, the strength to endure, wisdom for a difficult decision, comfort when we feel utterly alone. When we greet God with gratitude, we are not just thanking Him for outcomes, we are thanking Him for His presence, His patience, His guidance, and His mercy. A helpful way to combine reverence and gratitude is to use a simple rhythm. First, acknowledge God's character. Then acknowledge your need and your thankfulness. You might begin with something like, "God, you are faithful. I honor you. Thank you for carrying me through yesterday, even in ways I did not notice." This combination keeps the prayer balanced. Reverence reminds you of who God is. Gratitude reminds you of what God has already provided. Together, they help us avoid two extremes: treating God too casually or approaching Him only with a list of complaints and requests. And this greeting need not be a specific phrase. What matters most is that it is heartfelt and God-centered, spoken aloud, in your mind, or simply felt in the quiet stillness of your soul. From this place of connection, a particular kind of peace emerges. The peace that comes when you stop trying to control every outcome and start trusting God with the day ahead. Surrendering the day is not a passive act. It is an act of profound, active trust. It is choosing to place your plans under God's guidance instead of building your day on the fragile foundations of your own strength, your own timing, and your own limited sense of what should happen. Think about how your day typically begins. Perhaps you wake up already carrying a mental checklist of deadlines, messages, and problems to be managed. We often begin negotiating with the day before our feet even touch the floor. If I can just get this done first, then everything will be fine. But surrendering the day to God changes the entire tone of those thoughts. Instead of leading with pressure, we can lead with prayer. Before you jump into anything, pause. Before the emails, the news, or the rehearsed worries, take a single moment to acknowledge God's presence. You might say, "God, I give you this day. I desire your wisdom more than my own routine. Guide my steps, guard my attention, and help me to respond with love." This simple act reframes everything that follows. It is a spiritual reset button, redirecting your focus from self-reliance to God-dependence. Surrendering the day also means acknowledging that your plans are not the whole story. Scripture consistently presents this idea. The book of Proverbs encourages us to trust in the Lord with all your heart and not to lean on our own understanding. We are reminded to treat our plans with humility, recognizing that God's will ultimately shapes our lives. In other words, surrender isn't saying, "I don't care." It's saying, "I care deeply, and because I care, I am entrusting this to the one who knows everything I do not." Imagine you have a difficult meeting scheduled. Your mind might race, preparing a defense, rehearsing arguments, and trying to predict every possible response. Preparation is wise, but surrender changes how you prepare. You can ask God not just for a convincing argument, but for a calm spirit and a listening ear. You might pray, "Lord, give me the right words, and help me to hear what is truly being said. If I need to change my approach, make it clear to me." Then, you enter that conversation more open to the moment, and less attached to your own rigid plan. Surrender also transforms how we handle delays and detours. When your commute takes longer than expected, or a task is postponed, it is easy to feel frustrated. If you're used to controlling every detail, these moments can feel like failures. But with a surrendered heart, they become invitations to trust. Have you ever noticed how easily life can be split into compartments? Work over here, family over there, and faith, perhaps on Sunday, or when things get difficult. But the invitation of a spiritual life is not just to think about God when it feels convenient. It is to invite God into every role and every moment, especially the ordinary ones that never make a highlight reel. God cares about your actual life. In the Bible, we see this encouragement repeated. Colossians chapter 3, verse 23 says, "Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord." Note the scope of that phrase. Whatever you do. That includes your job, your household chores, the way you speak to a stranger in line at the store, and what you do when no one is watching. So what does this look like practically? At work, inviting God into your role means asking not only, "How do I get this done?" but also, "How can I do this with integrity, with patience, with an excellence that honors you?" It might mean telling the truth when it would be easier to bend it. It might mean treating a difficult coworker with respect. It means meeting a deadline not from a place of fear, but from a desire to offer your work as a gift. Now shift to another role, your family. As a parent, a spouse, a sibling, or a caregiver, inviting God into these moments does not remove the challenges. It changes the posture you bring to them. When conflict arises, you can pause before reacting. You can ask God for wisdom. It could look like choosing gentleness over sarcasm, or listening fully before you respond. It is the practice of forgiveness, when every instinct wants to justify your own rightness. And what about the quiet moments? The ones that feel small but shape so much of our lives. When you pray, instead of just catching God up on what happened, try inviting Him into the moment you are in right now. A short, honest prayer like, "God, I need your help to be steady today," is deeply meaningful. The goal is not eloquent language. The goal is connection. And this extends even to your own mind, to what you feed it, what you dwell on, and what you allow to shape your emotions. This is where you can bring God in, not as a distant judge, but as a gentle guide, helping you discern what is true, noble, and worthy of your attention. As we invite God into our day, we naturally become aware of our need for inner purity. Have you ever noticed how quickly your inner world affects everything outward? When your mind is cluttered with anxiety or resentment, your words often come out sharp or unclear. But when your thoughts are grounded in truth and grace, your speech tends to be more measured, and your actions follow with that same steadiness. This is why it is so powerful to ask for cleanness of mind, words, and actions, not just once, but as a daily alignment. Let's begin with cleanness of mind. A clean mind doesn't mean you will never have a negative thought or a difficult feeling. It means your mind is intentionally directed toward what is right, true, and helpful. Thoughts are not passive images. They are the seeds of our motivations and behaviors. If you constantly rehearse anger, you are training your brain to see conflict everywhere. If you practice suspicion, you will begin to interpret even neutral actions as threats. So cleanness of mind is about the purification of your attention, choosing what you focus on, what you entertain, and what you allow to take root. Imagine your mind as a room. If it is cluttered, you cannot think clearly. But when you take the time to clear the space, you create clarity. When you ask God for a clean mind, you are asking for His help in this process. Help me to notice when I am distracted by negativity. Help me choose thoughts that build up rather than tear down. This inner state inevitably shapes our words. Words are where the mind becomes visible. Clean words are not only about avoiding profanity, they are about being honest, respectful, and constructive. Clean speech avoids exaggeration that misleads, gossip that wounds, and sarcasm that humiliates. It also includes speaking with kindness and clarity, choosing language that reflects your deepest values. Think of a common situation. Someone makes a mistake. A cluttered mind fuels a harsh script, but a mind seeking cleanness slows the moment down. The words that follow are different. Let's look at what went wrong and figure out how to prevent it next time. The same event, but a radically different impact. That is cleanness of words in action. And sometimes, the cleanest speech is silence. Knowing when to listen, when to wait, and when to let a moment pass without comment is a profound form of wisdom. As we bring this time of prayer to a close, let us not rush past the most meaningful part, the moment when we allow these words to become something we carry with us. The end of a prayer can change how the rest of the day feels. So let us close with 3 intentions: to receive peace, to hold on to hope, and to accept a daily blessing. First, let us close with peace. This is not merely the absence of conflict, but an inner steadiness that God gives to guard our hearts and minds. You can receive this peace with a simple, spoken intention. God, I receive your peace. Let it rest on me as I go about my day. You can make this specific. If you are praying about stress, you might ask, ease my anxiety, slow my breathing, help me to respond instead of react. If you are facing conflict, you can pray, help me to speak with kindness and listen without defensiveness. Let God's steadiness take root within you. Next comes hope. Hope is not wishful thinking. It is the quiet trust that God is at work even when we cannot see the full picture. It is the flashlight in the fog. It may not show you the whole road, but it shows you where to place your next step. Hope changes our prayers. Instead of only asking, please fix this, we can also say, I believe you can bring something good from this. In a closing prayer, you might say, give me hope for what comes next. Help me remember that this moment is not the end of the story. By naming what you are trusting God for, hope becomes more than a feeling. It becomes a direction. Finally, let us close with a daily blessing. A prayer should not end when we say, Amen. It can continue through small, faithful actions that carry the spirit of your prayer into the hours ahead. This is the blessing, the empowerment to live out what you have prayed. Ask for it directly. Bless the work of my hands today. Bless my conversations. Bless my moments of rest. Help me to be a blessing to others. This is not a request for an easy day, but for a meaningful one. A day where your actions, your words, and your very presence reflect the heart of the God you have just met with. May His peace guard you. May His hope sustain you. And may His blessing flow through you, today and always.